Hi guys, I've got a nice video here about creating terrain in CopperCube. CopperCube doesn't have inbuilt systems to import texture masks like most of the modern game engines do, so that you can then pre-populate repeating tiled textures into your terrain to make the terrain bigger and better use of memory for tiling the textures. But CopperCube doesn't have any of that, so I mean, you can tile the texture, but you can't import a height map with masks. Just a height map by itself, or just texture tiling by itself. What I think is better is a 3D mesh from a professional software system. So here's an example here of a nice little 3D mesh. It's only low resolution textures at the moment for testing, but you can see the sort of the nice weathering effect you can get. You know, the different detail in the. This is 4K resolution on the single texture for the whole thing. So when you're doing these 3D mesh environments, yeah, you will typically use large size resolution on the textures. There's no way around that. That's fine if you're happy with that. Some pretty good. It's pretty good how that's. You'd never be able to do anything like that in CopperCube, even with any textures that you put in the engine itself, unless of course you've got an absolutely massive level and then you split up and you manually put it in. It wouldn't even be half as good as that anyway, even if you try to imitate that. Yeah, so that's why I think this is actually a better way. It's a huge, really nice detail, colors, texture resolution, I'll call it. Yeah, it's I mean the blurring. I'm not talking about the blurring of the texture. I'm talking about the detail in the texture, in the environment. It's the weathering effect, the pathways. Notice how the walking close between mountains, it's darker. Then you go into a wider environment, it's open and it's lighter. That's ambient occlusion baked into the texture. That works really well. It actually does. Even the CopperCube lighting system, directional lighting, wouldn't be able to achieve that same effect. Not really, no. You can do shadows on one side, but not double-sided like this. Yeah, you could use point lights to get a little bit of an effect like that, but you have to use a lot of point lights. It'd be wasted performance. So, but this is just baked onto the texture. It's very, very cool, I reckon. So you're getting the narrow squeeze effect from, darker. So you can see the light on the ground versus the walls. That's ambient occlusion baked onto the texture, and yeah, I think it's good. So this is using a program I'm using called World Machine. Now, because I'm creating 3D meshes, not importing height maps, and I need the textures with it, the fully baked in completed textures as well. Therefore, there's only a few programs that do that really well. World Machine is one of them, and that's the one I'm using at the moment. I'm pretty sure I'm going to pay for it soon. This is a 1K texture upscaled to 4K. Obviously, had I used the inbuilt World Machine 4K texture, would look a lot better because it has a lot more detail in it. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? See how the lighter areas, open lighter areas, darker, narrow areas. That's really cool. Like, that's an excellent feature. Yeah, so this is just running one 4K texture, 100 megabytes, and 260K polygons. You could get away with half that. 130K would still look almost the same. It's yeah, it's not a lot of difference there. So that's how cool that is. Now, World Machine here. World Machine. So that's how I made the 3D. It's good, isn't it? See all the. See the key kicker here is the ambient occlusion I found. You click on here, device window. You've got your file input. You can add a bit of noise, Pooling noise. You can do some modulation, terracing, do all sorts of stuff. Flow restructure, erosion, and thermal weathering. That adds a little bit of nice detail in there. And then you just throw a bit of colouring in. This is called quick color, or it's just a single color, texturing that whole thing. How it does it, I'm not really sure, but it certainly works. And this is the ambient occlusion section here. Comes within the game engine, but you can have this file with a different height map, and you just load your own height maps, and you'll have the exact same output. So there's a lighting and contrast at the end. So it goes from left to right, so as you go left to right, see now it adds a color there. Ambient occlusion in this separate section, it's worked out here. You can adjust all the settings by changing the quality and exaggeration. I'm not going to change any of my settings because I'm really happy with it. But if you double click in the middle, don't click these little dot things because that's the connections, but just double click on the thing in the middle. You can adjust the you know, as it goes along. You can change these settings, strength, yeah, lighting, contrast. So I think that's lighting, bias is lighting, and that's contrast. Yes, tells you right there, contrast. I should change the name of that. Anyway, yeah, and this is the scene view. This is the end result. It's a 3D image that you can just you can see the small one here on the top left, but then you go into the detail in the green button there, 3D view. You can see it all in a lot more detail. You can scroll in, move around, see whatever you want to see. Middle mouse button to scroll, middle mouse button hold down to move it around, and left mouse button to pivot on the axis. Yeah, so you can see the nice shading baked into the walls of the cavern. It's actually really nice how it's done that. It's a surprisingly nice effect. I didn't realise it was. I couldn't work out how come it was coming out so good. Compared, I've got like dozens of different templates for trying different scenarios out for different terrains, but this one by far was the best. And it's because of ambient inclusion setup particularly. I believe it's a colour. This simple colouring thing works very well as well, rather than other ones that have, you can separate different colours for different things. I don't know, but I find this one actually works better. This is the mesh output. Double click on it. You can change the. You can either go a full output or whatever you got, or just a reduction, it's like a blender decimation type thing. I usually go for 256. Y is up usually. All those settings. You just change the output. OBJ, yeah, it's just OBJ, but the OBJ is fine. It's one of the best formats I find. And there's your bitmap output. Bitmap means it's just the image. That's the image output. PNG, you can change it to PNG, TIFF, whatever, BMP. I think 8-bit is better than 16-bit because it uses less memory or less size. You don't need 16 bits for gaming. That's what I'm told anyway. So go with 8-bit PNG. Yeah. If you did end up using World Machine, this is the free version, mind you. If you end up using it yourself and upgrading to pay for it, the resolution, it's limited to 1K for the free version, but the paid version is there's no limit on the resolution. You can go 8K, 16K, and whatever your memory on your computer can handle, it'll run it, and that's awesome, I reckon. And this can do tiling as well. Unfortunately, you have to upgrade to the highest level to get terrain tiling, so it splits up your terrain. I haven't used it yet, so I don't know exactly how sure it works. It probably picks you one image that you've made and splits it up into sections. In terms of the actual texture, does it all share the one texture, or does it split the texture up too? I'm not sure about that. But that can do that. There's a few programs out there that can do that, and they're all priced roughly around the same price. Strangely enough, there's nothing really good that you can get for free that I've noticed. I mean, Gaia is free to an extent, but it also has the upgraded things you've got to pay for as well. I've tried a lot of programs. I just uninstalled Instant Terra. That didn't work for me. No, it's not designed for outputting good quality texture images at all. I don't think any of them are. TerraGen, I haven't seen anything good with that. TerraSculpt, I'm not very happy with that. Gaia, that's for exporting masks, for importing to other programs to texture. I mean, you can still do it that way if you want. You can still export the mask and use a free texturing program, but I don't personally think it's going to be as good as the inbuilt texture that something like Weld Machine or another program will create, because you miss out on a lot of the features. The masks can only do so much. That's my experience anyway. I could be, maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's what I've found. The masks can only do so much, whereas this innate inherent texture is going to have a lot more detail in terms of weathering effects and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on using the masks because I didn't bother with it too much, but I mean, could be wrong there, but yes, but I found this to be exceptionally good, more than good enough for what I need. And to make a big map, this is obviously, you can't have it too big because it's a single texture shared, so the bigger size the terrain, the lower the resolution of the texture, so you don't want that. So in other words, you're better off just making separate little squares and joining them all together with a separate 8K texture for each one. That way you keep decent amount of detail and have a bigger map that way as well. But this one's pretty good, isn't it? I mean, this is just a single 1K texture upscaled to 4K. I mean, when you upscale stuff a lot like that, you loses a bit of detail. It'll never be as good as the original 4K from Weld Machine. So when I just subscribe and end up paying for Weld Machine, which I'm pretty sure I will be, I'll get the 8K, 16K full resolution texture. It'll be a lot better than this. Yeah, but it's nice, isn't it? It's a nice little example. This is just an example, one of many that I've got actually, and I actually created another one that was also very good just recently. I'll show you that. There it is here. It's got sort of a sharp mountain sections to it, and this has all been walled off, so there's only 4 entrances, north, south, east and west, and yeah, a little bit different, but also good, using basically much the same sort of thing, ambient occlusion, and actually the same color scheme as well. I mean, you can use any color scheme, doesn't really matter, but this is just, it is a nice default one, the color. I think it's very good, I like it. Yeah, so yeah, so I've walled off all the outside extremes on this particular one. I'm pretty sure I'll be using this for my game as one of the sections in my game. It's got heaps of nooks and crannies for, you know, exploring and going around the place. It's just heaps. So you want to make the most of the whole map because it's you know, only got so much texture memory. You can only put so many 8K textures into memory, you know, so it means you can only have so many squares at one go. I mean, you can load in sections, of course. I don't want to have to load too often. That's a problem in different sections. Have a, you know, decent amount of runtime before the player exits out and then loads a whole new section with new textures, new stuff in memory. Yeah, but you can, it does Weld Machine. It is a very nice program. It's one of the older ones. It's very stable. A lot of the newer programs are very buggy, crash quite a bit. Gaia, you know, a lot of them will crash a fair bit. This one does it, and it can do a lot of nice, really nice weathering effects. That's really low texture resolution, obviously. That's why that looks a little bit poor there, pretty crappy. But you get the idea that this is also a 1K texture, upgraded to, I don't know, what is it, 2K, 3K or something, I don't know. But yeah, but it's not the resolution I'm talking about right now. It's the way it's done, the weathering effect, and how it all looks, and the strata. It's how it's put it all together. The original height map for this is completely different. When it loaded in, it did a lot of weathering adjustments for it, and yeah, it made it. It looks good. I reckon it looks good. And the ambient occlusion, a really nice feature. That makes, see this wide open area, bright, closed environments, darker, automatically baked into the texture. So that's cool. Yeah. So once I get the 8K texture, the full complete resolution, this will look like 3-4 times better. It'll look so much good, so much better. Yeah. Anyway, so that's just another one I've been working on. Pretty much all day yesterday. You can see the outside edge. I've blocked it off so you can only get in and out certain ways. Yeah. So Anyway, yeah, so just going back to World Machine, yeah, it's a fantastic program. I really like it. This is your main little button here, device window, where you add and remove different things. So yeah, you typically start with put a file input. Most of the basic ones will just have advanced Perlin. It'll just create texture out of nothing. It'll just randomize some things, and you play with the settings, the heights, and you can just get mountains and stuff that way. But I wanted to input a certain height map to start with for this one, and then add all the stuff in after that. So you'll get this free copy of this for those of you who support me in some of the hard work that I do. In Itch.io, if you buy any of my programs on Itch.io, the Texture Terrain Sounds, Snap to Grid, or CopperCube Physics Drag and Drop, will get a free copy of the World Machine file that you can just load straight up, and it'll pump out the same type of thing. It'll be a different height map because I don't want to give that away, but you can put any height map you want in there, and you play with the settings. There's just so much functionality in it and so much adjustment you can do. Middle elevation, it's really, you just double click on each one. Erosion, double click on that. Rock hardness, I think that means weather's a little bit less. Sediment carry amount, so you've got like sediment that falls at the edge of the rocks and how much you want to accrue that, and what angle, and what color, and all that sort of stuff. You name it. This is called talus. Yeah, talus. So the more talus, the more stuff will accrue at the bottom of the bottom. See, look at that. Look at that talus built up. So that's the stuff it's basically sediment, I guess you could say, rock sediment that's eroded down. So that's completely different now compared to what it was just a few seconds ago. It's so easy to adjust all these things and make massive differences and just suit it how you like it. That looks sort of interesting, doesn't it? Sort of look like skulls or something on the ground. It looks a bit pretty crazy, doesn't it? I'm not going to save that because yeah, so discard, because I'm happy with the way it's set up for now, but you can change it how you like. Yeah, so I recommend that if you're doing CopperCube game engine and you want good looking trains quick and easy. I'd recommend World Machine. That's my best bet that I've seen so far. I've looked at all the other ones that I haven't been happy with any of the other ones. Gaia is not bad. It's fairly easy to use. As long as if you want to do it in 2 stages, export the masks and either Quixel Mixer or Substance Painter, you can get something half alright, but it won't export. Hang on a sec. Okay, so Instant Terra won't do any texturing, only base colors and masks for exporting elsewhere. Terragen 4, I can't seem to export any useful formats. A bit complicated. Gaia, it's designed for exporting masks, not textures, although it can do sort of basic textures. Yeah, they're all. This one's. I mean, a lot of them are all free to start with, and then the upgraded, better versions of it you have to pay for. They're all the same like that, really. There is no one totally free that does everything. I've not found it. Yeah, so that's basically it. So please support what I do and get a free cool file to create some awesome terrains for yourself. Yeah, cheers.